Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Listen, I may not be uploading a whole lot else right now, but at the very least, I can make sure to do this one. Though it didn't look like there were a lot of questions, so unless my answers are really long, maybe this is a shorter one? I don't know. Just a little bit of an update. I did take Aloha for some blood work this week. His T4 levels are down by more than half. They were 5.2 2 weeks ago, and they're 2.6 now. But as he's been stressed and getting used to everything, he has... I'm looking for him right now. Where is he? Actually, I don't know where he is. He has been a little bit restless, and that's made me restless. So while I have been working on some things, I find that I work for like an hour and then I just end up going and giving Aloha a bunch of attention just to try to make him comfortable and, you know, make sure I don't miss anything. Or sometimes he throws up and I have to clean up after that. Like, he's just had so many side effects and it's like been on my brain. My creative side has not been able to come through. This week, we will have the live letter, fortunately. We will have State of the Realm on Monday of next week. So you'll get this on Monday of next week. And then Tuesday, you'll have State of the Realm. So you'll have a couple of back-to-back. And then we'll probably have a better, steady flow of videos, information, some easy stuff while I'm still dealing with this. And I am working on the tank versus right after I'm done recording this. And I'm currently recording this on Saturday. So I apologize if you asked your question on Sunday. There probably would have been maybe one or two more at that point. But yeah, that's what I'm working on. That's what I'm working with right now. So thank you for your patience as I get more adjusted to trying to get... Aloha's going to have side effects and he's going to be like this for a little bit. It's new to me because it's very different than his behavior a month ago before I even knew he had hyperthyroidism. Now he's on the meds and the side effects are kicking in. It's just very different for me. And I'm a worrywart when it comes to that stuff. So it definitely affects my work. All the same, I'm doing my best. And these you can pretty much rely on that I'll manage to get out. Even if I have to do them on Saturday like I'm doing today because my Sunday's a little bit too busy. So with that, let's get into the Q&A itself. This might actually make the video a little bit longer since I had to do a long intro. Thanks to the sponsors over on Patreon for supporting. Nobody has to support. All optional options are there, but as long as you enjoy the video, ask questions in the comment section, all is good. You don't need to worry about anything else. I just like to throw out an extra thanks in case anyone is thinking of it or is already doing it. So with that, let's get on, shall we? All right, so funny thing, before I even go on to the first question, I turned on the scene that has my questions, which I can like scroll through right here. And when I opened it, it was like this. And I was like, wait, where is it? Because like, see how it's not the same shirt, but like it's a black shirt and it lines up. So I thought for a second that it wasn't working. I just felt like including that in the video because I felt like an idiot. However, this was the first question right here. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Happy. Hi. I've had a prediction about Beast. Oh, I think I know where this is going. So I did scroll through the questions this week, so I do remember. Yeah, this is the one where the idea of using regulators for Beastmaster is a thing. So I've said this every time someone has suggested this. I highly advise you pay attention to the Arcadian quests, because they pretty much immediately debunk this line of thinking, given that the entire plot line of the Arcadian is that using the beast's souls has irreparable damage that is killing everyone who uses them, especially the competitors in the Arcadian themselves, who are actually basically brought up to the higher floors and sealed away until they die. So, or at least that's what we're told that happens to them from what's her face. So I don't think they're going to use that as a method for us using the job, especially when the entire purpose of Beastmaster being a limited job is they wanted to make pet collection the main draw. They're like, well, if we make it a normal job, we can't really do pet collection. We'd have to do like a set number of pets, set number of skills. And the whole idea and job fantasy of the job would be compromised. To then further compromise it and make it use the beast, the regulator with the souls, would basically kind of defeat the entire purpose of it being a limited job in the first place. So foregoing the fact that the lore is very much don't be like, oh, we're the warrior of light. I'm sure we'll be not. Listen, we've done Shadowbringers too. We know we're not just automatically immune to a lot of this stuff. Even if the power of friendship and an extra soul or two can sometimes save our skin on that one. We don't want that. So there's a lot of reasons why I don't think. Now, after saying that, could it? Absolutely. I can always be wrong. I'm willing to say that. but it wouldn't make sense based on the pretense we've been given. Hashtag Monday with Mr. Happy. Greetings, salutations, and many thanks for the updates and content. Hello, and thank you for the kind words. Longtime watcher, first time asker, so here it goes. Of the upcoming content down the road, even though we both share the sentiment on doing everything possible, what are you most excited for and why? I am most excited for Criterion, but only out of anxiety and not even about like excitement necessarily. Criterion was great in Endwalker. Well, I think there are some decisions that they could do better. I'm lugging Variant into this as well. There are things I think they could do better, but it was a great new premise. The more difficult encounters, we actually even trial for like endgame raid teams because it's just that good of an environment. Far more digestible, doesn't require as many people, but they just didn't get the rewards. Like I think Savage doesn't need to be what it is. I think they could go a different route with the Savage mode instead of the one death thing. But when it comes to even just the normal Criterion, they just screwed up the rewards. That's it. If they get that right, Criterion is going to be awesome. People are going to feel motivated to do it. People are going to do it more, and they're going to see that they missed out on some great dungeons back in Endwalker, and then maybe go back and do those. So while I wouldn't say like, I think realistically, if it's like just like for what the content is, it's probably field operations, but in terms of what I need to see them do right, and it's so crucial they get it right. It's so important for the health of the game, for the reception of the content, for the longevity of the content. Criterion needs the right rewards. I'm not worried about the rewards for field operations. I'm not worried about, 24-man Savage stuff because we've seen how that survived even when the rewards are outdated. I just need to see Criterion do it right this time. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Happy. Hi. My FC has a bunch of silly lore about what our pets might play in 14 based on their personnel. Oh, God. What jobs do you imagine, or what would be the funniest Aloha and Ivy would mean? But the way Aloha's been acting as of late, he might just be a Dragoon because he's just lays. Like, well, I guess that's not true. I was going to say because he just lays on the floor, but the last like 3 or 4 days he's been walking around a lot. Like I said, he's been walking around nervously. Before that, he would just lay down all the time, so I would have said Dragoon. I'll take Aloha at his peak. At his peak, Aloha probably would have been a tank because he's always like, essentially always aggravating me. He's always got aggro on me, right? He'll stand behind me in the kitchen and trip me to death. He'll meow at me for attention, so that's his provoke. Like, he's big on that. Now, Ivy wants attention, but Ivy's far softer and gentler, so Ivy's a healer. Like, Ivy's there to give me the serotonin and the dopamine hits of having a loving, adoring cat that wants to be a part of your everyday, and also wants to be appreciated like healers do. So yeah, they're the tank healer combo over there. And then I'm, of course, the DPS main, so it works out. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hi, hello. Hi, hello. Sending some long hair solidarity, dude. I gotta get a haircut. It's too much. It's just too much. Dealing with some significant burnout. Play something else. All right, I'll read the rest, but still. Been a daily player since 6.5. That's not that long. Got caught up with almost everything before 7.0. Love the release of Raid Savage. Love getting my jobs crafters. Then I just got tired. I'm not feeling it. Yeah, that happens at the start of an expansion. Been playing other games every once in a while. I think about 14 again, but I'm struggling to find a spark. How do you deal with 14 burnout? I just don't play it. I don't play it, and then something new comes out, and then I play it again. That's it. That's all there is to it. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't feel like playing. I'm going to go play something else. And then I'm done. And then that's it. there's really nothing else to it, but you haven't even been playing that long. Like, that's the thing. I think everyone who plays a lot gets burnout literally every single patch because the game's not made to be played that nonstop all the time. Like, it's literally at its core not made to do that. So just play something else, and then when the new patch comes out, play that. And then if you get burned out again, then you play something else, and the new patch comes out, you play it again, and that's it. This one didn't have a hashtag, but it was saying hello, Mr. Happy, so it drew my attention. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hi. It's been a long time viewer. First time asking a question on a Mr. Happy Monday. Well, welcome. Okay, here we go. Let's say you were making a Final Fantasy raid party, obviously 14's party of 8 versus 11's party of 6. Thank you for clarifying. And you only have the main cast of... only the main cast. Okay, well, I mean, the main cast, there's too many characters. Like, I already see where this is going. Who would be your tanks, other CPS? I would need a list of every character in front of me. Like, there's two... Just you know what? Vivi's the Black Mage. All right, that's it. That's all I know for certain. Vivi's coming along. I don't like much about Final Fantasy IX, but Vivi is the best thing about that game. So he's coming along. But other than that, I don't know. Not very many of them. When I like Warrior of Light has to be a tank because, you know, there you go. So you've got one tank, you've got a DPS. I mean, like, and then obviously, like, there's so many characters, and some of them don't even have definitive roles, or like they've got materia that you can make them do whatever with. So it's like what even is the clarification? There's too many I can't. It's too much pressure. There's too many characters. Like, I'm sure I could do it, but like, I would rather have the characters all in front of me to figure it out. So at least you've got two picks that easily come to mind, and that's VV. I should be on everyone's list because he's VV. Can't help but notice a distinct lack of hashtags in this one. Maybe there's a few more questions than I thought, because I just saw this one too. Hello, Ola. Hi. So I've been leveling all my classes to get the cool robot mount. Bard is currently my last DPS that I have to level. I don't know how you play it as it's currently, because my goodness, it's a mess. There's about 4 things you have to manage, pretty much: dot timing, songs, soul, voice gauge, and codas all at once, and easily the busiest class in the game. Suggestions on what they could do? I mean, the only thing I would want them to do is just make it so that the song rotation is not so punishing if you die. I wouldn't change much else about Bard. Like, yeah, the dots could be more impactful. You could give them back dot integration, but it's not really that much to manage. Like, you're thinking about too many. You don't really sit there and manage your soul voice. You just know that you get it during, or on average, you get it during ballad, and on average, you get it during pitch perfect after the opener. Like, the first one is usually kind of early-ish in Mage's Ballad, and the next one is most of the time it's actually right before you go into your 2-minute ballad, and that's it. It's about on average every minute, sometimes a little faster, sometimes a little slow, and that's it. Codas, same deal. You don't manage those. You just rotate through the songs, like in the same order. You don't even think about the codas. It's like not even a gameplay mechanic. And dot timings is just, you make sure you iron jaws, you know, once during buffs, and then at any point where they're about to be, you know, where they're about to fall off. That's it. And songs, again, you just go through, like, those aren't even the things. Honestly, managing like the number of OGCDs you can have at any given point is more so anything than the actual job mechanics. I wouldn't change much of that. Again, I would just make the songs less punishing for death. And I know some people want a dot spread. At this point, dots don't matter enough for me to care about a dot spread. Sure, make Shadow Bite dot spread. I don't, not even Shadow Bite, yeah. Make Shadow Bite dot spread. I don't care. No, but I wouldn't change anything about it. And I play it, so like, pretty well versed in it. Hashtag Mondays with Happy Mister. Hey Haps, hi. First question here. Got a lot of those today. Welcome. I joined the game during the later parts of Endwalker and cleared Valgarmanda as my first ever extreme. Could you recommend any similar extremes to keep up my practice? I mean, fighting current extremes is the most valuable thing to do. Valgarmanda and of course Zorlja, because you just, it's the most relevant design to how the game is made now. Like Endwalker has a lot of like really big hitboxes. There's not that much boss movement. There's a wall boss in there. So like there's a couple of wall bosses actually. So it's like, that's really indicative of Endwalker design. But Dawn Trail design, while obviously we have a wall boss with Valgarmanda, it's the way the fights are paced and everything feels a lot different. Like I someone who's played for a long time, I feel the difference through like stuff like Valgarmanda and Everkeep and whatnot. So I would just practice on the current ones more than anything, because that's just, to me, that's the most relevant practice. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Good morning and hello. Always enjoy the content, even if I don't ask a question often. I really only had a couple of small-ish questions. One, while I feel Viper has been a welcome inclusion to the Melee scene as a longtime raider on Melee, it's easily become one of my favorites. I've heard from others that its high damage is not warranted due to the job's ease of use. Completely disagree, since the other Melees aren't much harder anyway. I agree with that sentiment, that they aren't much harder. But is there a reason some people feel this way other than just a loud minority of butthurt players? Because I found it weird because I didn't hear this kind of complaining when Reaper. Yeah. Well, Reaper, so there's a misconception. Reaper felt really strong in the first month or so. By the time we had the first raid tier and any sort of job changes had come out, Reaper was the worst melee DPS. It was fine. There was nothing wrong with it. But numerically, it was already like starting to perform near the bottom of the melees. It's just that the melees are all so high and so close that honestly it didn't matter much, especially for Asphodelos and eventually DSR. Realistically, Reapers had more complaining about, you know, their debuff that they have to manage, which they still have the complaining now. Yeah, it's I mean, I get what they're saying. Like, I don't get me wrong. I understand how you can play a job that feels harder to you, and then you play another job that's inherently easier. You pick it up and you're just blasting damage more than you ever did on the job you try way. Like I get the frustration, but I do think that you can't worry about that as much, about the difficulty of the job being the sole or one of the most major factors of the job's balancing. And yeah, I agree. The other melees aren't much harder. It's really just like, the one thing is that between 2-minute windows, I don't think any of them are hard. And then I think the difficulty of the 2-minute window depends on your own personal taste. Like some people really aren't good with ninja mudras, for example. Some people aren't good at, I don't know how you can not be good at Monk's 2-minute now, in all honesty. It's like the easiest thing imaginable. But like, you know, there's just some people who like it, just like the way that the jobs flow during that time doesn't really work with them. Whereas Viper is, you know, you're just essentially, you know, trying to line up the same thing you do outside of twos. You're just trying to do back-to-back ones inside of twos. You know what I mean? Like I get it, but yeah, I agree. The same thing. It's like, if you practice any job, none of the jobs feel hard. I mean, it's just, that's because you're practiced on it. Just because you're easier to get into one, or like somebody else, it seems really easy for them. Just don't worry about it. Just focus on what you want to do. Like, it's not the end of the world, and job balance isn't so far off that it matters that much anyway. Two, I know you don't rate on Dark, but seeing as you're planning on doing a versus, working on that right now, wondering if you hadn't noticed any other problems with Dark Knight other than performance in dungeons. I noticed we had some physical attacks that their mitigations just don't work on. That's the thing. When Dark Knight is up against stuff that deals magic damage, which is most of the time, you're like, oh, okay, you know, Dark Mind, cool, you know, Dark Missionary, cool. Soon as it's a lot of physical damage, not so much. And we had a decent amount of physical damage in this raid tier. So that was the big thing. But performance in dungeons, I have been a long time complainer about Dark Knight in dungeons. First of all, I've done Dark Knight in dungeons plenty of times, and I'm like, I'm fine, but I'm not warrior. And if you're not warrior, are you really fine? I just don't understand why they're so hesitant to give Dark Knight any amount more healing than Abyssal Drain once a minute. And I guess now, like, honestly, I'll tell my healer, like, just let me LD, just so I can feel something. Like, just like I can heal off of everything. Just let me feel something, please. Yeah, I don't know why they're so gun shy on it. Yeah, you have Shadowed Vigil now, which is fine once every 2 minutes, but like, I don't know. To me, it's just kind of silly. And it's not like, and Gunbreaker on AoEs, it's better because Heart of Corundum is more frequently usable. Aurora has multiple stacks. Like, it has the things it needs. Not to mention, its 40% cooldown is so good. It also acts as a heal on top of that because of the HP increase. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. But, yeah, no, I feel like Dark Knight is definitely one of those on the chopping block and like needs a rework kind of jobs, just because of clearly what they've been doing. Even if it works, like even if it functionally works, it clearly isn't resonating. That's a problem. Like if a lot of people who play the role don't like it, and they're the people who you want to appeal, like they're not people like me who don't like when I say, oh, I think Dark Knight needs work, blah, blah, blah. Who cares what I say? I don't play it. I'm not going to suddenly change to a tank main, you know what I mean? But the people who actively play the role and actively want to play that job for its aesthetic or its job fantasy or whatever it's supposed to have at this point, a lot of them don't like it right now. And that, to me, is more of a signal than anything, regardless of how you can objectively look at the skills and how they function together. If nobody likes what you've done, go back to the drawing board. And I think Dark Knight has needed that for a while. I think it needs it now a lot more than most other jobs. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Hi. Have two hypotheticals. Okay, first one, assuming current fight design is the same, how do you think the PF would react to a tank that doesn't have an invul, even if it wasn't required? Would bad PF people not want to take a tank? So, yeah. If a tank, you can't have one tank have no invuln. Let me just say that outright. It's not that you need the invuln. It's that you have infinitely more advantages for having it. You literally get the skip mechanics, whether it's just a simple tank buster and swap that you don't need to use mitigation tools on, you don't need to swap, whatever the reason. You don't have to do it. It's -1 gameplay interaction. And then however many invulns you have across the fight, it's that many minus gameplay interactions. There's also, of course, the ability to save people in case anything goes horribly wrong, even if you're using it when you wouldn't normally use it. So if you don't have one of those, you're infinitely less useful than the other tanks. So yeah, no, people would not respond well. You'd have to take all the tank invulns away, which I'm not even against, to be completely honest. I'd be okay with it, but that's just me. Second, obviously 14 is not a game where trading health for damage makes sense, but would it work if, let's say, Dark Knight had a mitigation that cost their HP for an extra raid-wide mit or spent their health for a personal mit that effectively gave them more? how do I put this? Because the answer is yes. You can absolutely make HP cost work for Dark Knight. Obviously, going back to the previous question, looking to give Dark Knight more of its classic Final Fantasy feel. It does create an issue where your Dark Knight main tank may suffer as a course. Like, yes, technically there's TBN. So like if you really wanted to, you pop TBN and that if there's the risk of like an auto plus raid wide or something like that, you know, causing a problem. If there would need to be something else with it. You couldn't just give up HP for the raid wide mitt. You as the individual tank would have to get something else back on top of it, not just the mitt from the actual raid wide. Because you want to be able to use that tool while you're still the main tank. And while there's definitely workarounds for that, obviously you could, you know, XCOG or they could give them a tool or something like you could Shadowed Vigil with it. Like, yeah, there's interactions that work, but they want to make sure that the average player isn't punished for pressing a button that is supposed to be helpful. So there would need to be a little bit more give than take, and that kind of defeats the purpose. It's really just kind of pandering, but I think most people would be okay with that kind of pandering. And yeah, like if they spend health to effectively give them more HP, I mean, that's essentially you're trading HP for EHP is the term that we use for that. And yeah, I mean, there are ways to fulfill the job fantasy that don't feel bad, but they do still inadvertently open up failure conditions that otherwise wouldn't exist for the other tanks. And that's something they're probably going to be afraid of always. Maybe they give it a try, but we'll see. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello. Hi. I just returned to 14 after a break since Endwalker patches, so I may be missing some context, but as a player who consistently participates in high-end raids, which opinion on the devs going through jobs and buffing them all instead of nerfing the overpowered Pictomancer? Feels like a bad move after they've already performed a stat squish to me. So the stat squish was already not enough when the stat squish happened. So at this point, throw the stat squish out the window, unless they do another one. They've always taken this approach. They always want people to not feel bad about picking something that's good and they like it and it feels good to play versus making other options more appealing by making them stronger. Like if you say, oh, we buffed Viper, we buffed Monk, we buffed Samurai, we did all this, we did that. And everyone who like hopped over to Pictomancer from those mains went, oh, you know, maybe I should check those out again. Now they feel a lot better about playing them because not only are they still the job they liked before, but they're similar in power level to the job that they had just swapped to. It's definitely more appealing versus, oh, they nerfed it, I guess I'll go back. Like, it's all about the interpretation of how an individual will feel versus with one option versus the other. And they will always go for the, we made this stronger than the, oh, we made the big thing weaker. Now, of course, if the big thing was a huge enough problem, like we're talking about like 20, 25%, yeah, they wouldn't do that. But it's the better option if it doesn't cause any imbalances in the game. Now, you might then look at the Savage tier dying as quickly as it did and the how much of the Enrage was skipped. That wasn't really due to the job buffs. That was, I've explained this to a few people. They had already screwed up the numbers on Wicked Thunder before they had buffed anything. Because, like, look at the average. Like, yes, if you were to take every job that was buffed and put them together into a raid team, you would collectively have earned a lot of damage in the patch. But, like, my comp, for example, was what? Bard, Picto, which was already strong. Actually lost a little bit because they fixed that whole like thunder skip bug thing that you could do. I don't remember how it worked. So it was Bard, didn't get buffed. Picto, didn't get buffed. Viper did get buffed considerably at that. And Reaper, which was fairly strong already. I think they buffed it a tiny bit, but it was already like one of the stronger DPS going into the patch. So you have like you have a pretty decent gain on Viper, and you have a tiny gain on Reaper. Fine. White Mage and Astro, I think we were. Yeah, you had the light speed. Like Astro got changes weeks ago, but it didn't get anything major. It wasn't like, oh, hundreds and like thousands of DPS higher. And then I forget which tanks we had. What did we have? I think we had Warrior Gunbreaker, I want to say. And those didn't see like anything significant. So like if Viper getting a 10 to 15% buff, whatever it is, doesn't make for a minute off of the Enrage. It was undertuned well before they made any job changes. Could those job changes have hurt it more? Sure. But no, it's not underbalanced for the reason that they said it is. It was off from the beginning. A lot of it has to do with how easy the last phase is. There's not much like exchanging damage for doing mechanics correctly. There's just a lot of, hey, there's a few easy mechanics here, just don't screw them up and just hit the boss. And that's usually what puts the pressure on people to perform in the last half of a fight. And that was just not there. So I think it's the better approach. And also, I do think they'll probably do another stat squish / level squish going into 8.0. Hashtag Monday with Mr. Happy. Hi, how are you? Hi, I hope you can answer this question. Me too. I think it's the last one, actually. I got carried through DSR recently. How much harder is top? I played Astra in DSR. I'm sorry, if you played Astra in DSR, I don't know how carried you were. Like, DSR is one of those, like, you can be the worst performer, but you still did it kind of fights. And top is not that. Top, if you are actually, like, harming your team in terms of like consistency, you will not clear it ever. You won't even get past phase 1, or you won't get past it very consistently. And even then, there's some stuff in phase 2. Party synergy is not going to be a fun time. Delta is not going to be. There's a lot of things that become very not a fun time very quickly. I'd say top would still be worse in this case for you. But I don't know how much you were. What, did you just get gray but do all the mechanics correct? That's fine. That's not carried. As far as I'm concerned, that's not carried. That's pretty normal. If a bunch of people have beaten the fight before, you never have, and you're the worst performer, but you still did the whole thing, that's fine. That's like a perfectly normal thing. But top's harder for most people. So unless you are really in tune with it, I thought top was pretty easy when I was doing it in Prague. And now I just don't like doing it because everyone else groans their way through it. And I'm just like, now I got to groan my way through it. Yeah, it's just all about mentality on that. But I'd say on average, most people struggle with it a little bit more. And yeah, that was the last question. There's a few people with other stuff regarding selling the gold cert, using like mannequins or buying a trash item off someone's retainer, and a few other comments. But I believe those are the only questions that we have. It's a very light question week. So with that, I'm going to wrap things up. Be sure to like and subscribe. Ask your questions in the comment section of the video below, and be on the lookout for a handful of videos this week. I promise this week. Now, Aloha doesn't have any appointments. I don't have any weird stream. Well, actually, I do have a weird stream day planned, but I'll be streaming longer that day. So, I mean, I guess that means technically less YouTube content, or less time to work on YouTube content that day. But this should be a more normal week. We have a live letter. We have some guaranteed content. We have some good stuff coming. So I want to ease back into things now that Aloha's not behind me, but I'm coming to ease my mind a lot more. So thank you for watching. I will see all of you in the next one. And until then, take care.